welcome everybody to the 150th episode of the Sawdust Nation podcast. I just want to let everybody know this will be the last podcast before the 151st episode. So, yeah, I gotcha. Yeah. Anyway, this is Nick, your host from NPG Creations. We got Josh over there with his head shining, gleaming so bright from North Country Woodworking, and Nap over there with the goofy high and tight from Nap's Naughty Works LLC. So, gentlemen, 150 episodes. It's been a run. What's that? 3 times 50, right? 15 times 10. That's 150, right?
Yeah.
We'll see how far he goes, ladies and gentlemen.
Anyway.
What about the easy one? 1 times 150?
150 times
there we go.
1. That's right. No, it's pretty cool to look back and see all the good times that we've shared. I don't think this is going to be one of those throwback episodes. However,
no, this episode's going to be a musical, starting with Nap.
What do you got going on in your shop there, Nap? We're going to just do this like we always do, just regular old missionary style. Nap, what do you got in your shop?
Not missionary, but anyways, we won't go there. A lot of wood in there, but
not missionary, but doggy.
Anyways.
You got a shop dog? Are you getting one?
No, I got a shop cat.
Oh, I'd love to have some shop laying around. I'm just saying.
And that's why patrons get to hear that stuff. Anyways, I was really busy this weekend. It seems that my weekends have become way more productive than during my weeks. Because during the weeks, I'm doing actual work, and then I sometimes get in the shop, sometimes don't. I kind of took the role that Josh takes on Tuesdays. Typically, Tuesdays aren't a big shop day. Typically, it's podcast day. I mean, sometimes he'll have something cut on a laser or something, but he's not fully in the shop. He's typically on the podcast, and that's kind of what I did today. I actually went through a bunch of my files, organized some stuff. I don't know about you all, but when I start jobbing, I just save stuff to my desktop, and I look back at my desktop and go, "Oh, crap! I have so many icons. What is all of this?" And some of the stuff was one-offs, but I still save them. Like all my SVGs, regardless if they're one-offs, I still put them aside because you never know. You might need it again, and since you've already created it, why recreate the wheel? So I went ahead and did that today instead. That was a little bit of just organization for the computer, if you will. And then as far as jobs are concerned, so last weekend I did a shadow box and a plaque. This weekend I did a shadow box and a plaque. It seems to be an ongoing theme. However, I've got a very, very large order possibly coming my way. So my dad, out of all people, I can't even say out of all people, I didn't expect to get a job like this from my dad. So he's trying to implement an awards program for his company. And he's starting with his region. Well, with that, it's a fairly sizable order, which is pretty awesome. But if it's a hit with all of the regions, I might be servicing all regions of his company with awards.
With your mouth?
Mm-hmm. No.
You clean up.
So I'm going to redact the name at least. But there's these stars. Okay, there'll be star performers. Okay, these are their monthly awards they'll get, and they're cheaper awards, right? They're made of oak, and they got the hanger on the back, the recessed. Which, by the way, if you haven't done this recessed thing with the sawtooth hanger deal, it's pretty slick. You have a nice flush mounting on the wall.
That's not a shot fired this direction.
Sorry, Josh.
I don't know what
Josh,
it is.
Still haven't done it. Sorry. No, but it wasn't a shot, but Josh took it that way, and yes, I guess we can call it that. But so
shot to the heart, but I'm okay.
Who sings that?
Bon Jovi.
I think they should keep singing it. I'm just messing Josh. But anyway, so they want, I think it's 8 of these per month or something like that, or 6 of them per month, and then they want the quarterlies, and then they want annuals. So I'm going to do all those up. As long as it sounds like their company likes them. So I'm just waiting for the final word to say, yeah, press forward and make them. And this will be obviously a monthly basis. So I'll be making these per month, which would be nice to have a constant state of revenue for that. And then every quarter, they'll get those plaques, the quarterlies with their monthlies. And then when the annual comes, follow through with the annuals at the end of the fourth quarter. So I got that job possibly coming up. I have a typical Mass Art shadow box. I do have a full acrylic patch that I need to have done in the middle of June. My 9-level school has been postponed to August because my family's coming in at the end of the month. And I kind of asked, like, hey, can I just not go in June so I don't have like a crazy bit of stuff going on and, crunch time happens. And then I get my new machine soon. They let me know that, or Stan let me know that they are in the middle of taking care of the electronic piece of it now. They did the Cara coding and everything, and they just got to make sure that it passes its final checks before they can send it on its way. So I should be seeing that here pretty soon. I ordered a 1.5 80 millimeter spindle from Daniel, air cooled, so I can have that 1/2-inch collet option and still get full power for the spindle. I have, and I also got another shadow box order for September. Now, my orders, they're coming in steady, which is nice, and I've been contacted about a few other things, a couple hat presses, which I never thought I'd do those again, but I am. So I got 2 of those that I got to make, but there's no due dates for them. It's just like, hey, when you get to them type deal. And then I have a hat stand, which I was talking to Josh about this. So one thing that a lot of people that make bigger items or items that don't fit in like a conventional box, it gets to be a little ridiculous when you try to package a larger item that's, about yay tall and like yay wide, 12 by 12 by 12, we'll call it. And you're like, man, this shipping is going to be ridiculous, because if you know anything about shipping, the larger the box, the more expensive it's going to be. So I'm going to implement a flat packing system. And Josh, what you got, man?
Daniel Dunlap, when he was on, was mentioning about that and how he learned his lessons with flat packing and whatnot. So just a flashback to that episode.
Yeah, flashback. I'm going to use, what are they called? The wooden inserts for this one. So I'm going to put some smaller wood inserts, and I'm going to make it to where the screws are removable. So when the customer wants to move that particular item as well, they can take it back apart, put it in a flat box, and ship it, and they won't have to worry about it getting smashed, hopefully. What's up? What's going on, Tim? I see Matt's in the chat too. What's going on, Matt? And obviously Jason's out there too. So yeah, and then there was an order that did not happen. I'm a little mad this was my first actual Etsy order, and I'm pretty pissed about it, to be honest with you, because Etsy does not kick your messages to you via push notification all the time. You might get an email.
That's how I get it.
Which I didn't see the email come through, but typically when something comes through Etsy, like I'll get like the random notifications like, oh, look at this deal on Etsy, or hey, leave some feedback for this. But it didn't send me a message that a customer had contacted me about ordering a shadow box. Now, shadow box have been freaking sweet because it was something that I had never made before. It was the shape of an atom, but it only had 2 rings. The center would have been a flag. It would have had a 3D thunderbolt down the center with 2 3D stars on the left and right of it. And it would have had 5 quadrants. So that middle quadrant would have been where the flag went. And then the different quadrants, 1, 2, 3, and 4 would have been the accoutrements and whatever else they wanted to put in there.
Isn't a quadrant 1/4?
I mean, sure.
So 5?
So I don't know what you would call that. Anyways, thank you, Nick, for stumping me there. Actually, I might have to look that up now. But anyways, the 4 quadrants that the things would actually go in, other than the flag, I would have had to layer the shadow box, because I don't know if you've all made an awkward shaped shadow box before. I know Nick has, but you can't just do regular angles for the way this one was. It was all round, and there would not have been enough room to make a big enough compartment for the pieces. So I would have had to layer this thing up like 4 or 5 layers of 13/16 cherry, because that's what it would be made of, was cherry. And then I would have had to put the plexiglass in a certain way. Like I would have had to make the top layer with plexiglass pockets and all this stuff. Yeah, quad implies 4. Yes, thank you, everybody. Thank you for making a few of them. Appreciate it. Yeah, like an onion. It's got layers.
We're here for you, man.
Yeah, I know. But not to talk about that box much more. Kind of sucks because I could have tried something different. But I guess you live and you learn about Etsy. I guess you just got to check it every day, which I really don't think I should have to do. But it's fine. So there's that.
Or at least your email.
What, Nick?
No, Josh said at least your email.
Yeah, at least my email, right? So because of that, I have checked my email every day. And still no other Etsy orders other than the one I missed, which is great. Let's see, is there anything else as far as the shop is concerned? No, not really. I did do some other things, though, with the Instagram and helping people out. So recently I joined a Maker's Chat. I was actually invited to a Maker's Chat by Josh. And we just talk about a bunch of random stuff, whether it be stuff we're making or random videos of things they find on the way to work. That was pretty funny.
Nick, you never responded to that.
Yeah. Let me go back and look.
I left it wide open for you.
Yeah,
that's what she said.
It was pretty good. But Jen from Jen's Turn reached out to me with some OMTech stuff as far as alignment with the laser and getting things to cut properly and not cut it like, we'll call it blurry, because when you don't have the focal length right, it like makes like a really thick cut. Well, the problem was she was getting double etching. So there are a couple different things.
Double vision.
Yeah, you could have had a couple different things wrong with that, and we went through all the paces of what typically could have been. We cleaned mirrors, we cleaned lens, we flipped the lens, we did all sorts of things. Well, then I went into some deeper researching and found out there's something called bi-directional movements when you're using the laser or when you're using Lightburn. And it actually, how to describe this is instead of a zigzag etching, it goes, bumps up, and then moves over, bumps up, moves down. Well, when it's rapid, it can come out of alignment for a couple of reasons, but the main reason is maybe loose hardware. So we took that bidirectional fill off, and she was getting clearer etching. So I'm like, okay, so that's odd. We further researched it and found out that there is these set screws on the belts. So on your laser head, there's 4 screws, one for each end of the belt, because the belt isn't a continuous belt. There's 2 ends that meet up, and they are secured by these brackets. Well, on that bracket, one of the screws happened to be loose. And that was what was causing that double etching, because every time it would move back and forth fast, it was essentially shaking just enough for it to give that double etching. So if you end up having that happen, the couple ways you can fix that are check your lens, make sure there's nothing in there. Check your mirrors, make sure they're clean. Make sure your alignment's good. And if all else fails, check all your hardware on your axes, because that will cause that. God, I hate you guys so much. I love you, but I hate you. But so that was the fix to that. And then we went into today, in fact, the other question was posed, how do you get your laser to cut inner pieces out before you have it cut the outer pieces? I will show that here in a little bit. We're going to introduce something a little new since we're starting at 150, starting in the next series of 50 episodes. I'm going to try to have myself and these guys implement like a how-to on either Lightburn or the different programs that we use, just like typical questions asked. And that particular question can be asked by newer laser users, and not calling Jen out. This is her first laser. She's just like, yeah, this is my first one. She put everything together herself. She tried to figure everything out by herself. And she was right there until we got stumped with the whole double etching thing. Hell, she had me stumped there for a minute. And then we ended up figuring it out together. But now for the newer folks using lasers, they don't know all the ins and outs and, let's say, vector selection or how to make the different layers and reorder them to cut priority. But I'll show an actual thing on the Riverside here so I can clip and put it on the Sawdust Nation page. But for the patrons, you'll get to see it here first. And then I also did a how-to video on my shadow box making. It was not like a full-out production. It was from my phone, and I'm trying to figure out how I can use the camera that I bought like a year ago and the lapel mic that I have. So I might actually start making more how-to videos, like 30-minute segment videos of like how to make things or how I make certain things. And the shadow box just happened to be the first one because I had a maker reach out, and just because I want to make sure I say his handle right.
Are you going to show us at some point in one of your videos how to make babies?
No, absolutely not. His name is Sean Jordan.
Which is why
over at the J Shop on Instagram. And I ended up making a video from inspiration from him as far as how to make a shadow box. So he said he's actually going to try to make a shadow box based on the video that I put out, and we'll see how that turns out. But other than that, that's all I got really going on in the shop between production and all those things. How about you, Josh? How's things coming with packing the shop, finishing jobs? What's going on?
Sad. It's very sad. So this weekend, I have a couple projects left, and I should have been working on those. But you ever get in the shop, and I just had this like migraine. Like I knew that operating something, I could probably mess up a project, or just it wasn't worth starting a project and then messing it up. So I went out there and I cleaned the shop up, vacuumed the whole thing up, got pretty much pulled everything out, vacuumed behind it, emptied all the dust collection, light duty stuff. So I can just kind of get through, something accomplished out there. And then once I was complete with that, I went ahead and started removing some of the, the stuff I have hanging on the walls and whatnot, as far as like AJ's flag and like some of the signs and the 3D prints and some of the testing that I've had hanging up the entire time. Realizing I have a lot of patching to do, but that's okay. Long story short, though, I did get a couple things complete. I did a 4 Loco can in acrylic, and it was fun. I had to put a little thought behind because of how it was set up. I didn't want to have to get too crazy with overusing acrylic, the 3M material. So some planning occurred, did things a little differently, and it worked out fairly well. But just exploring different things with that. I have some upcoming project that's going to be a little different. I'm still trying to plan that out. And then what else did I get complete this weekend? Trying to think. I had a stink bug decide that it was trying to chase the laser. I posted a reel about it, but long story short, it was fascinating. The thing landed like all the way in the back of the laser and then like crawled all the way to the piece. It was chasing the light for a while. And it didn't get cut in half or anything crazy. But it did get its leg.
He was waiting for the...
And yeah, I was waiting too. I was actually filming almost the entire time. But it did get its leg, and after that, it just kind of hung around and kind of like watched it. But, well, one leg out of like four.
Yeah, but like, let me rip one of yours off and see if you like to move around. You know what I mean?
You're not lying. But anyway, long story short, so that eventually I saw that, and I'm like, that's gonna be fun. And then I started doing some projects that I've been kind of putting on hold for a while. I had an epoxy project with like a piece of walnut, and I had a boat in there, and it's like a ocean motif thing, and got that epoxied up and ready. And then have you ever seen on Instagram, TikTok, one of those social medias, the guy that takes Star Wars figurines and kind of puts them like on a piece of wood and then like epoxies it, and then he turns it into like a circle? No one? Okay. Well, they're really cool looking. And, now I have the lathe. I wanted to try to go ahead and produce something not exactly like that, but similar. So I was walking through the BX, and I found in the kids section, a little Toothless, the Dragon series there, toy. And I threw it in some epoxy and some wood in there and put a little fake moss in there, and I filled it up. And the last pour, I got exothermal reaction, started smoking, bubbling. I put it outside, and I took some video. I'll do a reel about it at some point in time. Maybe a how to not do this. But it was, I know exactly what it was, is I was getting low on some of my epoxy, and I got a couple sports in it from the old stuff, and I kind of, yes, Nick, calm down. Then I opened up a new bottle, and I counted the first pump essentially as like half. Long story short, I math wrong, and we got some exothermic reaction. And I'll still try to turn it. It's probably going to go end in disaster because there's air holes in there. So we'll see how that works out. But, got to try it. So I'm excited about doing that. That's pretty much ready to, go out there and do. I'll probably finish out most of the projects this weekend and next week, and then I'll be packing up the shop for reals. I gave away a lot of stain and paint, stuff that I'd never use. That's just been on the shelf for a while. And squirt. And long story short, some makers came over. They, I helped someone out. I helped two people out, actually. And they got to benefit from that. Just trying to clean up stuff. So when, the time comes, I'm not throwing it all on the side of the road or trying to throw it away. But yeah, other than that, got some interesting projects coming up. One's going to be a 24 by 15 Glock shaped plaque in acrylic with an American flag, blue stripe, a quote from a president of the United States, one of them, and a whole bunch of the New Jersey in the handle. They threw a lot of detail into this plaque. So it's going to be a fun make. We'll get that knocked out. I have a challenge coin holder, a dust version. Nothing too crazy with that. I'll be messing with acrylic with that. And I have one or two options how I'm going to design it. And I got to pitch it to the client and see what he wants. If he wants it the first way, it would be something completely new I haven't tried yet. And I'm curious how it will turn out. But wait till next week for that. And then didn't explode, just jeez. What else have we got going on? I got the retirement trunk that's going to be complete here soon. And then a paddle, doing my first paddle. It's going away gift. And so I'm designing that, working that out, inlay a coin into it. And they brought 2 coins. I thought it was a mistake, but no, they gave me a coin too. So it's a challenge coin that in the very beginning, when I started working with the military working dogs, they brought to me and they asked me, hey, can you turn this into something you could do, like a plaque? And, fairly getting into design at that point in time. And I did it. I don't remember how I did it with the tools I had, but I somehow did it. And I used that design multiple times over, the multiple years I've been here for their gifts, going away gifts and whatnot. And they ended up giving me a coin of that same thing. So almost full circle. So that's pretty cool. And then I also I do most of the going away plaques for my office. I'm basically in charge of my whole office. And since I got in there, I've been making away the going away plaques for everybody. Go ahead, Nap.
Are you making your own?
They did ask if I was going to make my own or what did I want and whatnot. But so what I did is I made my going aways with another person, and I made it one for him. And then there's someone retiring just after I leave, made one for her. And then the 2 other guys that I trained up and basically have been there for other going aways, I made one each for them, for the civilian side to hold on to so they can be presented when I'm gone. I figured it was only fair. And the plaques are basically the either the KC-10 or the C-17 blueprint, and then their name and their position in the office. And then once that's basically been engraved and laid into some walnut or cherry, and call it a day. Now, for the higher ranking in the office, I did something a little different that I haven't tried before, as I engraved on some slate, and I put some paint on top of that, and then wiped it off, and laid that into some cherry, and I used some of the epoxy I was messing with to go ahead and glue that in, just for extra security, because the slate is a little bit heavier than another piece of wood. That turned out pretty good. I will be experimenting and doing that more in the future. I also did some blueprints of some planes on some slate and did the same thing, same process. I will be making a series of those for at least myself, maybe for sale later on for cars or airplanes or something like that. But that was fun. I've done slate before, but never really filled it in with anything. I just engraved it. This was all, I couldn't get a good SVG, so it was all basically engraved, like a picture engraved on slate. So it was a little difficult to figure out the settings, and actually the video that I just posted, the reel, is me trying to dial in those settings. And that poor bug was just happened to be in the wrong place, wrong time. So that brings me about full circle this weekend. Again, it was just kind of sad taking off some of that stuff off the walls and whatnot. Been here for almost 8 years. Been basically shopping it since probably 7 years-ish. So, yeah. And then I even found a old clamp set, not clamp set, but corner clamp that Nick made me when we first started talking. And sent him a picture of that. Found that in one of my drawers.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
So,
You sent me a picture of it.
yeah. So a lot of memories here. So anyway, that's what's going on with me. This is my last month here. And everything's kind of coming to an end. And I'll be traveling down to Texas in June, the beginning of June. So a new venture awaits. But with that, let's go ahead and toss it over to Nick.
Oh, yeah. So I finished that Marine Corps shadow box. I think I might have mentioned it last week. That was interesting.
By interesting, you mean?
No. So Saturday I just devoted like all day to it. It was literally it was Friday. Friday I devoted all day to it. I had milled the wood the night before and let it kind of set and rest, see if it would twist on me. It didn't, thank goodness. And so I built the entire box in the morning, and that bastard was 38 and a half inches tall by 25 inches wide. She's a big girl. I ordered, so it worked out perfectly because I ordered the felt on Amazon the night before because I didn't have enough red felt. I was like, oh shit. Like I only have like enough for a normal size shadow box, not something for this big. So, I ordered it. Amazon same day delivered it or like delivered it that the next day or whatever. So I was like, that's awesome. I don't have to go to Michael's or anything to look for felt. Everything just kind of fell in place, except I mounted everything in there. Well, so I don't know if you see the picture, but I inlaid everything in the felt. All of the coins and plates, there was like metal plates that the person wanted on inside the shadow box. So what I did to do that, I just give you all some insight on that, is I designed everything in Lightburn at its current dimension. So I took measurements of everything with a
caliper?
Yeah, I used calipers to get the dimensions on everything. And then I offset them outward by 0.1 inches. And that was to allow room for the felt to surround them. I ran a couple tests, real quick tests on it, on some scrap corkboard that I had with some felt, like scrap felt, to see what would work perfectly. And 0.1 did the job. So everything was like laid out and the way they wanted it. Now, this wasn't the way you see it in the picture is not the way that I would have done it, but that's the way they wanted it. So who am I to say no when they gave me all the stuff to put in there. I did all that first, laid the felt down, fitted everything for the box so the lid would close and everything, or like the lid lifts off. And then I go to mount the jacket, the blues jacket, which I had to cut in half. And I spent like 15 or 20 minutes ripping out the shoulder pad, which was, I used a razor knife to cut all the stitching inside so I could just pull it out. And that was fairly easier than last time I was using scissors trying to cut it out. So you live and learn on that. So unlike the last Marine Corps shadow box I did, I had to put the buttons on, and I had to put the EGA on, the uniform and all that stuff, and make sure everything was correct. The eagles had their wings facing upward, and make sure I had the correct EGA on the lapel, the Mandarin collar that they have, because you're supposed to have, I believe it's the anchor facing towards the opening of the coat, as opposed to the reverse. So that they have on each collar, they have an anchor, and it's supposed to be like part of the eagle globe and anchor is supposed to be pointing downward towards the opening of the coat.
So how did you just Google Express that thing, or?
I asked. I was like, there's two different EGAs on here, like, because it came in as a set, because they just handed me everything and in a box, and I didn't have any. I had a ribbon rack already assembled, thank goodness, because I don't know how their ribbons go on. But I asked, and it was for a master gunnery sergeant, so hopefully everything turned out great for him, because I wasn't complete. Like the uniform was not complete when I turned it over to the customer. I had a conversation with the customer the night before or the day before. I was like, hey, where's the medals? Hey, you're missing a button. Hey, I need this stuff to make sure this is complete for tomorrow, because the guy retires at like 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. So on Saturday. I was like, he's like, oh, don't worry, I'll bring it tomorrow at 7 a.m. when I come pick it up. I was like, okay, cool. And then he gets here. I had everything ready. I had the lid off of the box. I had, everything ready, the hot glue gun and whatever I had to do. And I was like, hey, did you bring all that stuff? He's like, oh, no, I left it at home. I'm sorry, man. I'll put it on there. I was like, all right, that's on you. Take my money. I collected my money, and then I sent him on his way.
Thank you. Bye. And it's your problem now.
Well, so the outside of the box was walnut, which was a pleasure to work with, and the sides of it were cherry. The back was Baltic birch, 1/2 inch. And then I had to piecemeal together corkboard as well, because it was just so large. I mean, you'd have to buy a massive corkboard in order to. Yeah, I made it happen. And it looked good. I think it looked good. So, I feel confident that guy could push the medals into the uniform and just add the last button. So I tried calling him yesterday to see how it went. I didn't get an answer. So,
no news is good news.
Well, I mean, that's another thing too. Like, so normally when somebody tells me that they gave me everything, I'm not going to look right away, just because I have to put it with its stuff, and it's usually a month away before I'm even going to touch the thing. But at some point I typically do look, and I did look at the flag that they gave me for the Marine Corps. I said 3x5, please. And they sent me like 4x8. So I had to do a little work to that flag. Snip, snip. And it wouldn't fit. It was like way too big. There's no way, because I had a 3x5 American flag that I had folded and put in there. It was perfect, fit like a glove. So, but I told him also, I was like, hey, look, if you need to have a Marine Corps flag folded correctly so you can see the EGA or whatever, get me the right size, bring it back here, and I'll do it, and then I'll give it back to you. You know what I mean? It's not going to be a big deal. I figured that'd take 5 minutes, which would probably end up taking me an hour. Anyway, so yeah, that I've got, I had an Etsy mess up where I was cutting so many nameplates that day. I put somebody else's name on this dude's nameplate. So he messaged me. He's like, hey, why did you do that? I said this was the name. It had the rest of the information was correct. I just forgot to change the name. I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'll send you out a new one ASAP. So I cut a new one for him, and it's getting in the mail. It wasn't like something that was getting presented to a PCS. Oh, or a retirement for that matter. It was just a gee whiz, I want to have this hanging in my man cave. So he was all right with that. I keep getting Etsy orders, man. I'm not complaining at all. By all means, I'm not complaining, but it is keeping me on my toes. So that and the fact that, so do you ever have people, you give them like a timeline. You're like, hey, I will have it done by this day. Well, first off, I'm already backed up to July right now. So I have people messaging me or whatever, calling me, asking me, hey, how's my project coming? Like, I don't know what to tell you, man. It's not. I haven't even looked at you yet, bro. You know, like your stuff is on. I'm not saying I put it on the back burner, but you know, it's in the queue. You know, I could tell you how many projects I have in front of yours. You know, so
I think people forget that even though we're one person shops or whatever, that just because one person shop doesn't mean we don't have other projects.
Well, so like when I tell people that I have such a long back order or like backlog of work, I think they forget that I just, you know, I'm not just some dude that's going to build them something because I like to fuck around in the garage. You know what I mean? Excuse me. I'm not just some dude that likes to just build stuff in the garage on my free time. Like I'm actually, you know, actively rolling through different projects, sometimes 2 and 3 at a time. Just if they're close in nature, or if I can get 2 or 3 things going on at once, I'll do it just so I can try and get ahead of the curve. But I don't know what to tell you, man. It's going good. Looks great on the
Hey, let me get a picture of that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you could.
Yeah.
Do you do?
Later.
That's another thing. They're like, hey, can you give me a sneak peek of it? And not just send you the box of the crap you gave me. Like I don't know what to tell you, man. Here's a stack of wood.
Check it out. Look,
this is gonna be your project.
Just a bunch of sawdust.
They'll be like, yeah, I meant to make your project, but here's a pile of scraps.
No, I hate to sound disrespectful towards customers, but you know, I do try and keep my cool, because it is frustrating though when like they call you and you're like running a saw and you shut down just so you can answer a phone call, and they're like, hey, remember when I ordered the project last week? Yeah, the one due like 3 months from now. Yeah, I know. Okay, what's up? What about it? Yeah, how's it coming? Okay. It's going great.
It's mental. It's in the mental vault.
I say it's on time right now. That's the schedule is on time.
Eventually get to it.
So
my favorite's when they're like, hey, no due date. And then they call you up on like Wednesday and be like, hey, you're going to have that done by Friday?
Yeah, the unreasonable. I make sure I tell them, look, this is however many days that it's going to take, you know? So anyway, I got a bunch of stuff to do for the 322nd this weekend.
Keeping you busy, huh?
323rd this week. 322nd next weekend. Yeah. It's pretty interesting, man. It's getting pretty interesting. So
Miss So-and-so is a really nice lady.
No, she really is. And she does a great job of staying ahead of the ball game and sending me emails about like, hey, this is coming up. I need it on this day. I'm placing the order here now. And with this particular unit, I don't charge up front because they are just so good we have such a great working relationship. As I show up with it, they give me cash or a check and I don't have to worry about it. And I'm never worried about getting stiffed by them. So, but I finally made something.
Not normal for a unit like that. I mean, like, just for people out there listening, when you get a government job, you're always worried about getting the funds. So having that relationship like Nick does, that is unheard of.
And, you know, I realize why, though. It's not government funds. It's funds from a private organization that is part of that unit. So she's always on top of her game. So, but I finally made something that she didn't like. I'm not like I was trying to, but so I made a couple of flag coin racks. And instead of using cherry wood for the insignia or for the unit logo, I used Purdue because, for one, I thought it was a nicer wood. but she didn't like that. So I was like, hey, no problem. I'll just take those home with me. So I drilled the back out and popped the insignias off and put cherry wood ones on there. It's not a big deal, but, and I encouraged her, like, hey, look, if you're gonna, if you don't like something, tell me. This way I can fix it, because I don't want to give you something that you don't want. You know what I mean? Especially if you're like, we have such a good working relationship that if there's a problem with something, please tell me and I'll fix it, and it's on me. So that's pretty much it. I'm like, I hate to just like come on here and be like, oh, I'm busy, but yeah, I stay busy, and this week's gonna get worse. At the end of I got my regular job. We have a class starting tomorrow, and then Friday or Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday.
So Nick, real quick. So you're always busy. Got it, man. Lots of jobs. You've had a couple unique jobs, let's say, right? Are there any unique jobs on the forefront? Like anything along the lines of, like, let's say that Buccaneers flag box thing you did, or anything? Or is it all just production work?
Coming up in June, I have a security forces badge shadow box that I talked to Josh about. It's like a replica of the one he made. And then in July I have mid-July I have a shadow box for 06 who's retiring. It's like customized with, he said, so the customer said that they didn't want the traditional square shadow box, but they wanted elements of a bunch of different things on it. So I asked them to draw me like a rough bar napkin kind of drawing. And it ended up being like pretty much a square shadow box that with a whole bunch of like insignias and stuff on it, which is, I mean, that's cool. I'll do whatever they want, No, I do have one more. There's a gentleman that Greg Greg from Hiltz Builds. He sent me a customer.
Okay. Yeah.
He sent me a customer, and we are designing. Well, I did not do any of the designing. This gentleman is a master of SketchUp. So he sent me full detailed SketchUp of coin rack he wants. That's 24 by 48.
Holy
Nikes. So I was like, nice. You did most of the work for me, dude.
Thank you.
I know. I gave him
Can you have a cut list to go with that?
No lie, I gave him a freaking break on the price because I didn't have to do any of the work. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get I have to get the SVG to like etch into like he wants plexiglass on like a lid that folds down over the coin rack.
Oh, okay.
But he also and this is where it gets kind of cool, is because he wants the frame to house LED lights in it, so that when they light up, it lights up the etch in the plexi.
Okay,
how cool is that? Because I've seen Ben Warren makes these things where they have like a logo on it, and they stick right into a base with LED lights.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
that's cool, man.
Yeah, that is going to be a cool build.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I told him 15 July is probably going to be around when it gets done. I had ordered the part. I had ordered everything yesterday or the day before. But I digress.
So, there was one thing I forgot to bring up during shop talk, and it was not about my shop, but it's about what was going on in Morgan Hop's shop. So, and also it featured not only the 150 Elite, but also featured Daniel over PW and CNC. One of our sponsors, has featured one of his spindles and its cutting capability. So I got to watch today. It was a 30-minute video. I'm like, okay, cool. Well, the title was, watch this go 1,250 inches per minute at a 1/4 inch depth. And they went from 100 inches per minute, and they increased and showed like how you can increase the speeds and stuff on the Elite based on, whatever cut it is. They had to do separate files for this because of how rapid the machine would move in the cuts. But he got up to 1,250. He was trying to get to 1,000 and see if it would break anything, and it didn't. He's like, man, I'm going to go back in the office real quick. We're going to ramp this up a little more. And he's like, well, let's see what happens. And he got it to 1,250, and he goes, we weren't going for quality of cut here. We just wanted to see it work. And let me tell you.
Was it skipping?
Not one bit, man. He
No
had the
kidding.
thing. Well, so he kept it. His controls were this. It was the spindle. The RPMs of the spindle were 24K the entire time from 100 inches per minute all the way up to 1250. And then obviously the bit, which was a 1/4 inch upcut spiral bit. And man, it ripped through it. Like it started at 100 inches per minute.
What was he cutting?
Mind you, the cut. What's that?
What was he cutting?
A piece of plywood.
Oh, okay.
Now, mind you, okay, he did make this disclaimer. One, that's his machine. But two, the other disclaimer I would make, yes, you'll get different results with obviously different materials. But a lot of people cut plywood.
Mhm.
And honestly, for the test, the fact that they were able to rip through a 1/4 inch of, what was it? I want to say birch plywood at 1,250 inches per minute, and it didn't break the bit. The spindle didn't bog down once, and the machine handled it like a champ. So,
was the bit from Cadence Manufacturing, or was
it was just a regular upcut
Armada,
spiral
or?
bit.
Okay.
It was from Inventables.
That thing would have snapped touching the.
No, that thing would have
plywood,
snapped
man.
with the torque that 2,400 RPM.
And yes, Victor, you heard right. 1,250 inches per minute. That thing was cruising. Now, mind you, he did also show that it reached max movement by around the mid portion of the line because it's got to ramp up to its speed and then ramp down. But the fact that it still hit like 800-900 and it was just freaking cruising along like it was nothing, hitting 1,250 and then slowing down, it was incredible. I was very impressed.
Now, I didn't watch this video yet, but I'm assuming these are all straight cuts.
Yes, right? Yes. Because if you're trying to do so most vectors that you cut though, even with the high feed rates, there's actually stuff built into the G code that will slow it down on the curves. However, it's by a percentage. So if you're going 1,250 and you make a curve on one of those, it's still going like 600-700 inches per minute. So, but no, I still thought it was pretty awesome that the machine operated the way it did. And most importantly, Daniel's spindle, just like it was nothing, not a single bog, nothing. It was like it was the same every time. So I got to say, I applaud Onefinity and their machinery, Daniel and his spindle kit, and just all you users out there, be confident in what you're buying because that thing's awesome. And this is by no means a promotion for them. I was just in awe because I have a journeyman and I was like, man, I wish I had an elite now. But I'm pretty sure my journeyman could do something similar. But the main difference between them is they have those cool sensing switches on there. So that is the main difference, I think, between them is it knows when to stop and whatnot. But anyways, I digress to that.
Can't you buy an upgrade kit for yours?
Not yet, because it's coming soon, I think. And when it does, I will definitely probably do that. But I do need to pay the spindle off and this other machine I bought first before I spend more money on upgrade. But
fair enough.
Either way. So before the episode, though, so Jen from Jen's Turn, she asked me a question about laser cutting, layers, and whatnot. And I figured to just do a quick clip on how to on the old Riverside here. And this very clip, I know you all patrons will get to see it first, but I'm going to put on Sawdust Nation podcast as well and start doing like tip of the week or just the tip, whatever you want to call it, for the week. And then we'll post things. And honestly, I want people to ask for those things. Like, so for like next week, if you have an idea of something you want to see, we'll do it, right? As long as it's something I can possibly do on Riverside. And if it's something I got to do in the shop, then I'll do it in the shop, record it, or one of these guys can do it, and we'll put it up on the Sawdust Nation podcast page. But all right, without further ado, I'm going to do some screen sharing action real quick. I'm going to minimize the YouTubes and then go here, select this file.
Real quick while you're doing that, going back to my shop real quick, I did forget to mention I put my Etsy invocation mode and a little note on there, and I'll be doing the same thing for my website. So that was a weird feeling as well. So just wanted to add that in there real quick. Something I've never tried or done, and it was fairly easy. So, ooh, pretty pictures.
Yeah, so y'all probably recognize this from one of my Instagram reels. I made a First Sergeant retirement plaque. Now, mind you, yes, retirement plaque doesn't make sense, right? Well, very simple person did not want a shadow box, and they honored that, and they got him something nice, something simple. But, I mean, it was definitely retirement worthy, I feel. But, okay, so for this particular piece, it does have a lot of line cuts, a lot of internal layers that would need to be cut, specifically the diamonds and the stripes. And then you would hope that you don't get the outside to cut first, because if that happens, that could actually mess up your shapes on the inside. So for most folks that have light burn and start with light burn, thought I heard my kid, sorry. Start with light burn. This should typically be set as a default, but if for some odd reason you're not getting the cuts to start in the middle of your piece, or at least in one of the inside shapes and then moving outwards, there is a spot you can go to. And that's just some different ways you can do that. I know it's a fairly simple tip of the week for something that we're doing for the first time. I figured it would be something good to do, especially because it was a listener request by Jen. So that's the how-to on how to do your layers in the order that you want to do them. If you know any other ways, go ahead and shoot us a message, and we can always edit or add information, because that's how this gets better.
And if you are listening and you really want to see that in action, you can check out the Sawdust Station podcast page on Instagram, and Nap here is going to throw that up there so that you can go back and kind of take a look and follow along step by step.
Yeah, so hopefully we can do those each week, and this will be driven by you all. And if you guys don't give us anything, we'll come up with something. There's a lot to learn on these programs. There's a lot of buttons actually in Lightburn that I've never touched, and I probably should learn what they are, because I bet you there's something that could benefit me in one way or another. What, Josh?
I forgot. Lightburn wrote me back from the issue I had. I have to reply to them, and I forgot. So you just reminded me.
That's what I do.
I had a sheriff's deputy show up at my house yesterday. I wasn't here, but he texted me. He's like, "Hey, this is Deputy so-and-so." I was like, all right. He's like, "Yeah, I have these dog boxes. Can you make those?" I'm like, yes. These boxes they used to imprint dogs for like sniffing and smelling and stuff like that. They hide like drugs and stuff in there.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, I've never had anybody ask me to make them something to hide drugs before.
He's all giddy about it. So real quick, I had a problem engraving a tumbler this last weekend.
Oh, yeah.
A friend of mine reached out, and she was like, "Hey, I need this for a friend's birthday, blah, blah, blah." I'm like, "Sure, I'll get it knocked out." So I just updated Lightburn, and I went in, and same settings as the last time I engraved. Nothing changed, but the update. I went in, and I did an outline on some tape, just enough to see that, in fact, the file is going to work. It's going to look the way I want to carry on there. And took the tape off, careful not to move anything, pushed it to engrave instead of, or fill instead of line. And the axis wasn't moving at all. It just made one long line. So I went and I troubleshot. I tried to figure it out. Long story short, in Lightburn, in the actual layers, you can actually change the angle of how it engraves. It's called scan angle. And at 0 degrees in engraving, I could not engrave anything. At 5 degrees, it would allow me to engrave. Now, this is kind of tricky if you know anything about engraving tumblers, because you don't want more rapid movements than necessary when you engrave a tumbler, because you don't want it to, move, and then the engraving doesn't turn out well, what have you. The controller was showing me a distorted image of basically what I sent it. With the 5 degree scan angle, it was actually producing a, decent, engraving enough to go ahead and continue the engraving. So I got that job done, but right now I am in discussion with Lightburn about the issue. I have sent them everything, the file I was using, the rotary settings I was using, everything. Basically, I have to write them back, but we're going to get down to the bottom of it. I don't know if it's just my machine or my computer or something that's in my Lightburn setup or the program itself, but it was not fun to troubleshoot. It got me stumped there for a while. Something that should have took 10, 15 minutes took me like a couple hours. So just a little fun thing to throw out there. Sometimes when you think something's going to be quick and easy, it's not going to be. With that, let's go ahead and close it up.
Yeah, so we're kind of all over the place today with all sorts of things, from shop to topics, to shop again, to more topics, and random thoughts. It was a good episode. I liked it. But hey, keep helping each other out. Keep feeding the Sawdust Nation podcast beast. Keep giving us topics. Keep giving us questions. Keep asking us questions on the sides and all those things, because guess what? We love talking about them. We love helping you all out. And we want to keep making this community stronger because that's what we're here for. Other than that, that's all I got. Nick.
Well, like always, take care of yourselves and each other. And, the other day at work, my boss told me that I needed to dress for the job that I wanted. So the next day I showed up without pants on, and my boss freaked out and said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm dressing for the job I wanted. A job." Anyway, Josh.
Thank you for listening to the 150th episode of Sawdust Nation Podcast. If you just started your journey with us, well, strap in. You're in for a treat. And if you've been following along from the beginning, thank you. It's been a very interesting journey at that. We hope you enjoy some of the new additions as we go along. A lot of new things coming up. But with that, hopefully you get in the shop to go make some sawdust. And Sawdust Nation Podcast out.
See you later. Have a nice time.
Peace.